everyone and welcome back to my class. You know that I am Haliminisa, teacher and junior lecturer of Elibeth High School and Junior College. So here in today's class we are discussing our chapter 4 that is dealing with the economic subject from second year. Chapter name is Planning and Environment. So after that now we will see the National Institution for Transforming India, that is NITI. So here the National Institution for Transforming India, that is NITI, has been established by the Government of India as a replacement for the Planning Commission. Okay, so it is being formed as the basic of the extensive consultations across the stakeholders. So here the state governments and the relative institutions and the experts and the people at large. Here the NITI has not come into existence all of a sudden. Here the document of the 8th fifth year plan, the Standing Committee on Finance in its report on demand grants, that is from 2011 to 2012, and the former Prime Minister and noted the economist, that is Dr. Manmohan Singh, accepted in his farewell addresses to the Planning Commission in 2014, has sought the appropriate changes in the Planning Commission. Get it here? So as a result of these aspirations, here the NITI has been established to provide a critical and directional and strategical and inputs to the development process. Okay, so this is the formation of NITI. Now we will see the nature of NITI. Here it will emerge a think tank to provide the strategical and the technical advice to the central and as well as the state government, and it helps to the evolve, promote and strengthen to the cooperative federalism, believing that the strong states make a strong nation. Exactly. So it develops the mechanism to formulate a village level plans and integrate them at a higher levels of the government. So it ensures that all the sections of the society would benefit adequately from the economic process. And also it creates a knowledge, innovations and the entrepreneurial support through the collaborations. Exactly. All these are the natures of NITI. Now we will see the objectives of NITI. So here the objectives are to change the role of the government from provider of the first and the last resort of that of an enabler. Getting? So and also to focus on a mix of agriculture production with food security at the base to benefit the farmers. Exactly. And to ensure that the India is an active player in the deliberations of the global issues. Exactly. And to utilize the economically vibrant middle class in the process of production to realize their potential in full. Get it? And to leverage the entrepreneurial and the scientific and the intellectual human capital, and to incorporate the non-resident Indian community in the process of development, and to enhance the uses of modern technology in the growing urban centers, making them seconds, and at last to promote the good governance. It is an organization, a network to expertise the focusing on functionally, flexibility and the domain knowledge. Exactly. So this organization consists of chairperson, that is Prime Minister. Next is that the vice chairperson to be appointed by the Prime Minister only. And third is that the members, that includes the full-time members, then part-time members, two from the research institutions, that is leading universities on rational basis. Okay. Then the fourth is the ex officio members, that is the maximum 4 from the Union Council of Ministers to be appointed by the Prime Minister only. Exactly. Then the fifth is that the chief executive officers, that is to be appointed by the Prime Minister for a fixed tenure in the rank of secretary to the Government of India. Exactly. So here the NITI works in close cooperation, consultations and the coordinations with the state government and as well as the central ministers. Okay, after the organizational structure of NITI, now we will discuss about the functions of NITI. Here it will facilitate to transform India into cooperative and competitive federalism. Exactly. Here the national agenda is to provide it to the Prime Minister and the Chief Ministers for developing along with the priorities and strategies. Okay. And then it argues an integrated and the holistic approaches to develop and also to resolve the interstate and the intersectoral conflicts also, and it also enables the capacity building and the technology upgradations. Okay, and that finally it monitors the implementations of the policies and the programs and the evaluate their impacts. Get it? So all these are the functions of NITI. Now we will see the rural-urban imbalances. Here the urban areas relate to towns or cities. Exactly. Census of India has defined the urban areas with minor changes from census year to census year. Exactly. So in general, the perspective, it can be stated that all the places with the municipality, corporation, cantonment board and notified are the committee fall under the urban areas. So here all other places with the population of 5,000 or more with 75% of male working population engaged in non-agricultural activities with the density of 400 or above the person per square meter are also urban. Get it here? On other side, here the rural areas have low density of population and depends on agriculture for employment and use land extensively for cultivation and life intimate on the social relations is to be prescribed as a non-urban area, that is rural area only. So here the disparities between the rural and the urban areas are notable in all spheres of human life. Exactly. Here the economic and the non-economic also. So these disparities are one of the causes of concern for the policy makers as they create a new set problems. Exactly. So here after that, now we will see about the relative growth of urban and rural population. Urban population increased from 11% in 1901 to 17.3% in 1951 and to 31.2% in 2011. Here in absolute term, urban population increased from 2.56 crores in 1901 to 37.71 crores in 2011. Here at the same time in percentage term, rural population decreases from 89% to 82.7% in 1951 and to 68.8% in 2011. Here a growing trend towards the urban situations has been noted since 1971 in India. Exactly. So after this relative growth of urban and rural population, now we will see the reasons for growth of urbanization. Here the growth of urbanization in India is mainly due to the imbalances between the urban and the rural areas. Exactly. In different aspects. So here the prompting rural people to migrate to cities and towns. Here the rural peoples go to urban centers and settle there because of the industrial expansion and growth of service sector attract the educated and the skills rural youth to the urban areas. Exactly. And the transport, communications, educational and the health facilities assure a comfortable living, and hence some of the rural peoples migrate to the urban centers. Exactly. And life in the urban centers attracts some of the rural peoples to migrate here. So that's why here the growth of urbanization take place. So all these are the reasons for the growth of urbanization. Now we will see the causes for the rural urban divide. Okay, is that the rural urban imbalances have the existed since recorded history in India. Exactly. So they have come out in a greater dimension at present for the confronting the development process. Exactly. So here there are three different types of factors contribute to the disparities, and they are natural differences, non-economic factors, and the policies of government. So here, after the causes of the rural-urban divide, now we will see the remedial measures. Here the government of India has initiated a variety of programs for the development of rural India and to reduce the urban rural divide. Exactly. So here the Bharat Nirman program aims to develop the rural infrastructures and create irrigation, road, connectivity, housing, water supply and electrification and the telephone facilities also. Here the NREGA means here the National Rural Employment Guarantee Act provides the social security net by the guaranteeing employment days in rural areas besides the construction productive assets. Exactly. And then the Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan encourages the primary education to the children in the rural areas, while the National Rural Health Mission provides the health services to the rural people here. And the SJGSY, that is Swarna Jayanti Gram Swaraj Yojana, is also assisted poor families to come above the poverty line by ensuring the sustainable incomes over a period of time. These objectives is linked to self-help groups by providing income generative assets also. And the socio-economic empowerment of the rural poor has been given importance through the self-help groups, of which training and income generating assets have been made available. Here the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, that is PMGSY, was launched in December 2000 with the central funds to provide the road connectivity in rural areas. So all the inhabitants with the population of 500 and above in the plain areas and 250 and above in hilly states, tribals and desert areas are identified for coverage. Okay, here a vast number of Indian villages have been provided with road connectivity and the shape of rural India is being to be changed. Exactly. So here the National Social Assistance Program is a welfare program administered by the Ministry of Rural Development, and also it is in the compliance with the Article 41 of the Indian Constitution by providing the assistance to the citizen in case of unemployment, old age, sickness and the disablement. So here the National Old Age Pension Schemes and National Family Benefit Schemes and the National Maternity Benefit Schemes and the National Maternity Benefit Schemes are the part of this program to ensure that the rural-urban divide would not increase further. That's why here, and also to ensure the development of rural areas and arrest the urban migration here. Okay, so all these are the remedial measures. Now we will see the regional imbalances with the causes, consequences and remedial measures also. Some states are relatively advanced economically while other states are backward. So here even within each state some regions or districts are more developed while others are lag behind. Exactly. So for these situations of coexistence of relatively developed and economically backward states and regions within the states is referred to as a regional imbalances or regional disparities. Get it here? So they may be natural due to the unequal advancement of the natural resources, or man-made by giving the preferences to some regions by endowing them with higher investments and development efforts. Exactly. So these disparities in the development of the regions may be in the form of inter-states and the intra-states or the sectoral also. So here the regional imbalances have a drag effect on the overall economic growth of India? Exactly, it would be. So they have increased in the post-reform period through the planning era since 1951 has determined to reduce them. So for this, some indicators are there. The indicators of the regional imbalances now we will discuss. Here the economic indicators imbalances among the regions are identified with the economic indicators like per capita income of states and poverty level and HDI, that is Human Development Index. Get it? Here after the indicators of regional imbalances, there are some other indicators of regional imbalances also there. Here in this, the disparities in the individual growth rate are visible as the states of Maharashtra, Gujarat and Tamil Nadu on account for the 2/5 of the total industrial output value added and the fixed capital. Get it here? So here the employment in industries is higher in the industrial advanced states. So it implies the majority of states lag behind in the industrial development, due to which the regional imbalances have crept in, like the agriculture development, urbanization and the consumption of electricity per capita and the deposit of the mobilization is also there. So all these are the other indicators of the regional imbalances. Okay, now the causes of regional imbalance in India. So here the regional imbalances become the hurdles of national integration and economic growth and overall development. Exactly. So here the backward states and regions develop the feelings of dissatisfaction and development becomes lost here. So the reasons for the regional imbalances are the historically British rule in India was very responsible for some reasons to be the backward. Exactly. So here the Maharashtra and the West Bengal were the two states preferred by the British. So here the three presidency towns, namely as the Calcutta, Bombay and Madras, are attracted most to the industries and the rest of the country remain the industrial backward. Exactly. And second one is the geographical conditions like land, soil, mountains, river influence economic growth. Exactly. So here even the today hilly and mountain areas remain the backward in UP, Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir. So here the agriculture prosperity along with the agro activities depend on the geographical conditions of the area only. Exactly. The agriculture prosperity along with the agro activities depend on the geographical conditions of that area. Exactly. Here the good rainfall and the favorable climate help the economic development and contribute for a higher agriculture output. Exactly and obviously. So here the regions with the unfavorable climate conditions suffer from the low agricultural and the industrial activity. Exactly. So here already well developed areas and states attract more and more to the private investment since the scope for profit is very high. So here the reasons for the concentrations of industries in Mumbai, Kolkata and even in Chennai are due to the factors like availability of skilled labor and infrastructure facilities and well developed financial institutions are there. So that the natural resources play a vital and important role in the regional imbalances. Exactly. So some of the regions are endowed with the quality natural resources while others in short supply. So here the regions with the more natural resources can develop fast and linkage can be maintained here. Obviously. So here whereas the some areas or states have developed infrastructure facilities like road, electricity, telecommunications, railways and waterways. So they developed at a higher rate than those lacking them. Exactly. So after this, now we will see about the policy issues and suggestions for reducing the regional imbalances. So here the policy issues and suggestions for reducing the regional imbalances are that the backward states need to concentrate on the development of physical infrastructure, health facilities, training and education. Exactly. and the less developed states have to initiate the policies to reduce the growth rate of population in their effort to encourage the economic growth. Exactly. And after that, the technology has an important role in reducing the regional imbalances both in agriculture and in industry. So here the technology needs to develop to suit the needs of the backward areas. Exactly. And the employment should be expanded to reduce the poverty in the backward states. Exactly. And in this connection, increased guaranteed age of employment under MGNREGA, that is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, needs to be enhanced, especially in the tribal and most backward areas. Exactly. And based on the available resources, cottage, household and small scale industries should be promoted in the backward regions through the subsidies and the tax concessions and the trainings and the monitoring. Exactly. So here the reducing regional disparities is imperative to ensure a national integration and to create a feeling that all the states are allowed to be enjoy the fruits of economic development. Exactly. So by this we have completed part A, that is dealing with the planning. In next class we will continue this topic, planning and environment, with part B, environment. Okay, thank you.